Yes, Mr. Keshe.
Yes, good evening. I'm trying to paste something. This is what has been released by BBC Persian this week, last week. And as Stefania was talking about, we have in the report explained over a year ago nearly that we have seen the interference of the corona with menstruation cycle of women, because what we call number of women in Keshe condition were hit by the same coronavirus. And as Stefania explained, we directly helped and interfered using the process of Keshe condition, and they recovered, but they went, some of them, back in the same environment. They got it again back, we got them out again. And when we announced this in the report of 2020, it was very, what do you call it, questionable. But now BBC has reported that we've seen, this is a Farsi article of it, that yes, it has changed menstruation cycle to 2 weeks. And in some occasional cases, we've seen it every 7 days. So we know now what we reported a year ago in June 2020, the corona report has been correct. And this is another extension to what we're going to see with many, many others. We reported in the corona report the same problem with men, which they use their interest in sex or they can't get what we call erection. And we have seen from reports from Dubai with the Keshe Foundation team, men who have literally 98% of their sperm dead. And they go through a very hard cycle. And we have developed technology now is used extensively in Dubai by the Keshe Foundation doctors to retain what we call the process back. We will see a lot more coming out of this corona situation. And in a way, in the Keshe Foundation report, we went through every organ in the body of the man could be affected. But what is, and is part of the report we have released, is that the emotional effect of corona has not shown itself, which we are waiting to be shown. And that will bring with itself a lot of other problems, huge amount of problems, which psychologically we have nothing, we don't have any technology to be ready for it. But what we see now, they're talking about the new corona version has come out, and then how many more injections, how many more vaccination. There has to be a universal system for viruses. And we have put this forward, and hopefully in the next few days and coming weeks, we announce the first conference in Corona in Tehran, where we invite both scientists to come, as we said on Thursday as well, that the meetings will be without any masks, without anything. This is over, the game is over, we call the game in. And in so many ways, there is a certain amount of fear created because of the vaccination. But the most strangest thing is, we were looking at it yesterday or today, the only place in Europe, more or less, except I think is Norway, is Vatican, which is corona-free. And Vatican is right in the center of Italy with all the problems of the corona. There is a huge question mark in what is going on. And I raised this question when Pope went to Iraq and he was walking around without any masks, that there is a game up. How come everyone can walk with mask, be afraid of, and Vatican people are walking without? The Pope, if you look at his face, never covered more or less in the whole of visit, and he went right among population. It means that Vatican has used a technology which can stop the corona. Aren't they sharing it? Or as was gifted to Vatican, is part of the Keshe Foundation technology used in Vatican? This is what is the biggest question mark. Just go and click on Visit of the Pope to Iraq, and you see him in open places, and just put on the European nations, Vatican in the middle of the Italy is corona-free. Is this a joke or a cover-up, or is Vatican has reached an agreement that the holy places will not be touched? And they have taken whatever needs to be, because we cannot say corona is fake, because I've been through hospitals with tens and tens of people dying in Iran. We handled it, we had to handle it. So it is real. We have mortuaries full of body, it is real. But how come Vatican can walk and Vatican be cleared in the center of Italy, center of Rome, everything is shut down, not the Vatican? So this raises a lot of questions from all aspects, not only for the Keshe Foundation, but for the whole question mark over corona. And we are expecting to see more. And one thing which is for sure, we have seen this in other places in the universe, is that if this virus mutates within the structure of the energy level of the cell, which means goes into RNA properly, then it'll attach itself to other fields in the universe, and human race population can be wiped out. There is a very, very possible chance that this could happen. At the moment, sits on the table at the bench of theory. But if these viruses take in reality over and find a link connection and connect themselves to energies beside and outside this planet, human race is doomed. 100% is doomed. And it will be in a very massive way, in one go, in a very short time, in weeks and months. We don't see that at the moment, but there is a possibility, because we have seen these virus coverages in other parts of the universe which have wiped out races in short time. And this is a position we have to understand and develop the plasma technology in a much faster way, that we can handle such a system. In the universal community now, we develop the technology for this, to be able to drain universal energies away from the sources. In a way, what we do, we divert the energies. But on the other hand, if we are not there on time, it can create mayhem amongst the race of man. And we have identified 26. We should be by about 30. And what I call universal energy levels, if they tap into the energy of the virus, mankind is doomed. 100%. These are the technologies which need to be researched on. These are technologies which needs to be developed by man himself to protect mankind from such attacks. His staying home does not help, putting mask on doesn't help. They have to develop a technology which these energies absorbed or shared with the cells to be able to be transmuted out of the body in a condition of actually like mincing it up, that it doesn't exist in the strength which appeared. Because any of these strengths, if he finds one end linked to the cell of the man and the other link to the universal energies, God help mankind. And this is not a theory, highly possible, extremely highly possible. We could see even races by races, according to the strength they receive, they can be annihilated. And we'll see how it goes, but this is a new, what they call extension to what they already been released up to. What, when you wash yourself in a bath, when you wash yourself with gases and all these kind of things, you start the process of depleting energies. So if you reach such a point that you see such a rapid depletion, you do the same. You extend the horizon, you extend the what we call the parameters within the body of the man in a larger container of water or into the oceans and the seas till they depleted. But the situation with Stefania was critical, extremely critical. And we have seen how it's been curbed, and other members of the Keshe Foundation. At one point I said, how come Universal Council members always get this now? The female Universal Council members were getting hit every now and then with this problem. And now it's resolved since we introduced new ways of doing things. And don't forget, in the report, we talk about 26 new versions. And how many more vaccines are we going to get? The report now has been withdrawn from the Keshe Foundation Plasma Times and placed into what we call a new platform to B2B, and was accepted by Amazon 2 days ago. And as of hopefully this week, next week, you will see the report will be pushed to become one of the bestsellers by organizations which we have signed with. That the report through the Corona will be heard by many peoples. Thank you very much.
Mr. Keshe, may I ask you a question about the virus?
Yes.
What would facilitate the virus being able to connect to the universal energies?
We call these elongated viruses. The elongated viruses are, in a way, they connect through energy path, but they don't connect through the plasma path. An energy path in a line of field has no, what they call structural dimension. In the future, now that we start teaching, I will refer to this and I'll teach it in much depth in time to come. It's very much like what we explained partially yesterday or the day before in the Brazilian teaching. And we start teaching not only in Thursday mornings, now the teaching has become more extensive, 3-4 times a week around in private teachings and television teachings. We start teaching very rapidly the new essence of the creation and the magnetic field of the universe. They transfer energy the way we see the light coming from the sun. It's more or less that kind of ways. But this time the energy doesn't come from a star, energy comes from a massive resource or source of fields outside the sun or outside the earth in a given frequency and strength. Depends what the heartbeat of the earth calls for.
Thank you. I was just wondering if, I know that all energy packs or all matter is composed of the 3 different kinds of matter. And I wondered if connecting to the universal energy source would be connecting through one of the stronger essences of the energy pack, you know, like the dark matter or the antimatter.
these are very much energies of a very long strength. They in some, it has been seen in the universe that the way we see these viruses encapsulating the cell of the man, in number of occasions we have seen even planets to be encapsulated with the virus, by energy packs we call viruses. Literally a plasma strength encapsulates the whole planet, the whole star, the whole solar system. You got to always remember, macro and micro is the same in the universe. And many times in the life of the universe and universe, we've seen this. The stars, which are not the stars in a way, but they're energy packet stars, which man has no idea about them. And they don't have a sun in the center, which means the gravitational field is of the dilution, which again is no knowledge of it. This part of the technology now is used in the flight system of the Keshe mission. And then when they come and appear in the, or in touch with the planet size or the solar system size, they encapsulate the whole lot in one go. And they bring more or less darkness within, but transparency are from outside. And we know them because now we are used to them. We know which energy packs are encapsulating a planet. And within the Milky Way has happened a few times, but essentially it happens to what we call galaxies and the structures which are very close to the center of the universe, because the energy packs coming from the center are so strong, they have not converged or diverged or in a way change to more mass level energies of the universe, and they literally encapsulate a planet, a star. It's literally, it happens. And inside they become part of it. The same as what we see, then we see double structure. The way we know these planets or solar systems have been affected by energy packs is we see a layer on top of the layer. In a way, when you observe, the planet has two surfaces, or the solar system has two layers. You have a solar system with everything inside it, and like an eggshell, again, another one on top of it. But mainly of a transparent condition, which means we can see through it. It's very much like a corona. We see it over the cell as a corona. And this we see very much, mankind in travel into space will see this. A planetary system with two surfaces, but one is translucent and one is real hard. And you know there's an energy pack with this. You don't enter these zones. You're not allowed to enter these zones, because it's in a way will drain everything from the star or everything from the planet till the planet literally has no energy left and it collapses. What we call the inner core collapses and the structure disappears within the energy field. Because there's another part of the technology which we'll teach in the time to come. If you collapse what we call the central core, the principal core, by extension of the field strength, due to extension and the strength, the whole physical dimension, the magma and the surface of the earth all turn into energy pack. Because they lose the interaction of the fields, what we call inertia, and then you have a single inertia outside the plasma interaction. But you see it, mankind will see this very, very, very soon. It's one of the things, there is always a few in each galaxy. And within what we call universe, there's plenty, you see it. It's not unusual when huge fields take over a planet or the solar system. We get this in some solar systems when there is a massive eruption on the surface of the star that releases a big package. And this big package of energy in their motion to the boundary. They're so big that they come across a planet or another moon of the planet, and they just wrap around it. And the interaction of the field of the solar system as a packaged plasma on the planet, which is solid, creates a secondary surface. You see two surfaces on the same planet. Could be hundreds of kilometers separation. And you have to be careful.
Mr. Keshe, good evening. It's Kay Cox from London. Sorry to bother you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Kay, we hear you.
Oh, okay.
Can you? Yes.
Sorry, things that you've just shed a light on are frightfully dangerous and worrying. Is there any
No.
way or any technology that we could actually, I mean, at the moment we're in infancy, but in near future, is there any technology or other races in the unicorns that have got the technology where they can get this massive plasma under control or the energy field? So that
there are systems developed for it, but usually you wait hundreds of thousands of years and gradually the field dissipates somehow depending on its position. Or we see the star or a planet literally dissolves into energy and the virus takes over and that's it. The virus or the pack of energy has to have a magnetic field reference connection to the center of the planet in the strength. If it has, then it locks to it. The same as what the virus does. Some of the pictures, I've seen one or two over years, which reported by NASA or other space agencies looking deep into space. They don't know it, but I've seen this even in the reports of the NASA. The deep space pictures we see, because mankind is not aware of it, but I know it, I've seen it many times. I see this, I said, this is a double prime, it's got a virus on it. You see literally two platforms. One platform is the surface of the planet, the other platform is the interaction of the field of the energy of the plasma on it, and it creates a second platform. It's it's a beautiful scene to see.
like a mirage, so to speak.
No, it's not a mirage, it's real.
It appears as a mirage, like you see.
No, it's not a mirage. It is very real. It's actually, if you're distance away and you look, not with the way you look with the eye of the man, we look through a different dimensions. The vision of the space will be taught to man very soon. Very, very soon. Here you see a star as a dot. If man learns the new vision of himself, you can see across the universe through the eye of the soul of the man. It's a different vision. It's a different understanding, but man is not ready for it. Gradually, in teaching, will show. Now your horizon is 17 kilometers. If you have as a horizon, and you can look down because the curvature of the earth will take it. But in the depth of the universe, when you look, even with the surface of the moon, you see whatever. But in fact, you should be seeing it clearly, like as it's in front of you, every hole, everything. But in vision strength, we have not developed, but in time we will. As I said, the beautiful part of the space technology has started in understanding the field of the universe. And most of you are what I call in the infancy in the knowledge of the creation.
We pray to God that we catch up soon and get to that level. Mr. Keshe,
If you don't want to be a tomato, you better catch up.
Trust me, you don't know. I pray every day to have elevation of my soul, and I'm waiting for the moment. And if it's there, I'll grab it. Trust me, 100 miles an hour. But Mr. Keshe, you said that these viruses and some races in the universe has been wiped off. So if that was the case, so if a civilization was faced with such a Armageddon, so to speak, the soul, the actual soul of the creator is
Become
aware of
part
it.
of the soul. It become part of the energy of the plasma of the virus.
The soul itself. Why does he
Yeah.
allow conversion? Because he already knows what the
No,
danger
no.
is.
It's usually because you are made of. Your soul is made of the essence of the creation of the space you're developed out of. So it is, if I can explain it, in one of the teachings a few years ago, I explained this, is that if you want to understand it in a very simple way, most probably it's the easiest way to explain, is nanocoat a ball, and when it's nanocoated very well, and then heat it up, where you will see through the holes light. You see the molten copper. I've done this many times. If you know how to do it, you will see it. You see the copper molten inside the nano layer. You shake it, it liquids. We did this one of the first times with the scientists from De Beers Diamond Group. I don't know if you know De Beers in South Africa. They do a lot of site research, and I was involved with them with another of their scientists in this process. We make what we call a special diamonds this way. This is especially done for deeper space travel. When you take a copper, make a copper ball, nano coat it very well, and then heat it up with a current or with a very high powerful torch, where the heat can reach into the center of the copper, and the copper melts, and you see it, you shake it, it's just like a liquid. If you manage to get access to that liquid and empty it, you'll find that all your nanovirus disappear. All your nano coating doesn't exist anymore, because it collapses onto itself. And this is what we call more or less the collapse of black holes, when the center disappears in energy. And in these processes, the virus creates a condition of field strength that empties the energy within the center of this ball, and then the whole thing collapses. Everything, every single nano cell converts into the energy and becomes part of the virus. I've done this a few times and it's very interesting, but you have to do it in a specific way to reach it. I did this with the VR Diamond Group, one of their doctors. We ran some tests a few years ago. This is how we showed to the diamond bourse in Antwerp. We can create diamond from anything. And as I said, we took in the zirconium, and they said it's deflawless, and said the only thing you cannot do is to weigh it. Because with a diamond, we can create a condition of the production of nano layers, which is translucent. It looks like a diamond, there is nothing on it, but actually there is a encapsulation of the plasma over it. And everything you tested, it tells you it's a deflawless, which is the best diamond you can get. You got to understand the technology, and gradually, as we go deeper and deeper, we start opening some of the tests you've done in the beginning, but you never understood, or you didn't understand this side of it. As I said, the teachings will not confine to Thursday mornings anymore. Listen to teaching of Thursday and teaching of Friday. I taught something very important, that in time will become essential part of the understanding of the deeper space travel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe. Thank you. It is deep. Thank you very much. I'll catch up sometimes. With the grace of God.
If you got enough tomatoes, you'll catch up, no problem.
God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Keshe,
Go ahead.
I have, you're bringing up the subject of nano coating, brought it to my mind. I have a recurring question in my mind that I've been pondering for some time about the nano coating. the nanolayering that we do. When we create the nanolayers through the process which you have described to us, how the heat releases the atoms, but then they reform in a looser structure into a nanomaterial. Is it the material itself, the nano coating itself, because it is in a looser structure, that produces the energies that we use? Or is it the structure of the nanomaterial that is making a conduit for the universal energies to come in? That a certain structure attracts a certain level of plasmatic energy?
It's more of the second one. Partially of the first, but more of the second one. Because the nanolayers on the top layer themselves being loose, they release energies. They're a plasma, they interact. But at the same time, the space gap between the nanolayers become a trap hole, become like that CO2, we create the field of copper, and then all the carbon, that all the carbon in the space trying to reach it, converts and the top layer of the water with the oxygen and other things into what we call partially oxidized carbon and partially what I call amino acid oxidization, which carbon leads to creation of amino acid. And in that process, yes, you have a combination of both energy from the outer atoms in the plasma condition, and partially from the energies which the nanolayer absorbs from its environment, but cannot hold on to because they supersede the layers absorption, and the some are fed back outside. This is how, in the first paper, creation of black hole, I explained that the black holes are not only the eating machine, but are the creator of some, or creator of the fields of the universe and creation of stars. Because they collect from everything, the way we see in the CO2, but they reach a saturation, the lower level is not stronger to go to a lower level, and it's stronger than the upper layer. So it feeds back out, and then coming out with the interaction with the upper creates condition of life, condition of what I call life as a planetary system, the way what we see on the surface of the sun. And these things we have to learn very much. If you could make a spaceship that it could travel between the nano layers, then you will see the whole work of the universe, because in these nano layers, all energies of the universe are trapped in different strengths. And the atoms of the plasma of the atoms of the nano layer, they are not anymore attached to each other, they're floating, and you can literally vibrate them. It's a lot to learn yet.
Wow, thank you.
Okay, right.
Sounds like you've been around the universe at least once or twice to have observed and carry this much knowledge. But back to the Vatican.
Seen a lot.
Yeah.
Seen a lot, done a lot.
Mhm. Back to the Vatican for a minute. I haven't seen any priests with spray bottles. Are they, I know like in New York City, every morning the shop owner would normally take the hose and hose down his sidewalk in front of his store. So I'm envisioning that they must have a big container in there and are spraying the buildings and the surrounding area and the whole structure there to be. And who designated them to be corona-free themselves? Wasn't it just a few weeks ago where the Pope said that he wanted everyone that works there to be vaccinated? Is this some sort of cover story?
For which virus?
I don't know, but I thought, the one that's been plaguing us.
I said something very interesting to one of our friends when we saw it, because we are monitoring the situation in Iraq very closely with the visit of Pope. We don't see it as a religious, this was a political move to create wars, and we are closely monitoring it. He went there to create a new generation of wars, and he'll be condemned for it. The visit of the Vatican to Iraq was a criminal move, by the Vatican, inciting wars, new wars. And it is very open to us in this criminal act. But in so many ways, who tested the Pope for any viruses when he landed? Did he show any certification for vaccination? And this is very, very interesting position. How these people are out to do it when they encourage the others to protect themselves.
Well, we do know how much the Vatican likes to share knowledge, so maybe they'll open up as far as what they've accomplished there.
It is something which we what we call very much what we call it's a very strange situation, very strange situation where we've seen. I mean, we cannot intrude and infringe on pictures, but if you look in totality in some of the what we call Pope visit has brought a lot of question mark on the behavior of this visit. Massive question marks. We see it as an intrusion, and in so many ways, since when we see this, we watch a lot of this, what is going on, because we don't look at it the way you look at it, as we are observers. We are mainly political observers by vision, which is we've seen over years. I explained this deeply by showing specific pictures. And just wait. Just 1 second. There we are. Have a look at this. Is a visit of the Pope to Iraq. Just watch. The driver wearing masks. The bodyguards wearing a mask. Clergy, none of them do. You watch the same on the other side. I'll show you a second picture, which is more drastically, we are watching very closely. Why some of the Swiss guards are not wearing any masks? Is there such a thing available that that to Vatican that the rest of the Catholics cannot have? Why there is such a economical pressure worldwide when Vatican holds the key? Or there is a bigger question mark on the whole integrity of the situation. We are watching this very, very closely. You've got to understand. If I open to the left, you see no one is wearing masks. This is, if I wasn't involved in a situation in Iran with the corona, I would have said the whole thing is fake. But there's a deeper sense into what Vatican is doing. Don't forget, Vatican is in the center of Rome, and the winds of virus blow across the city. At least we lived there for 6 years. We know Italy a little bit. Or 4 years, 5 more, 6 years.
First cases of corona were detected in November 19 in Italy.
This is what is now the question mark over the whole integrity. This visit by Pope was not a religious meeting. This was there to incite war. And that has brought end to the rule of Vatican. Any nation incites war has to be finished by itself. This was a multi-trillion investment in starting war again in the Middle East. This was a visit of death, not consolidation.
You said multi-trillion investment?
Yeah. You see, Vatican sees the Iranian structure as a religious, as a competition, as a point of can damage their international income. Radicalism, which they create themselves. Iran has never created radicals. Vatican and CIA have created groups, which then they call radical groups. We've seen it with ISIS, we've seen it with everything else. They are financed. Well, Vatican finances huge amount of war up to now, and it's finished. Especially in Europe. You got to understand, every death, I've explained this before, brings a lot of revenue for Vatican, for the church, for Catholic Church. You pay for the funeral, and the family for the rest of their life go to church to pray for the man who died. €1 investment, 300 million people. If you can catch 10% of it, 35 million every week in the pocket. Forget about the other incomes. Churches are not taxed. Now churches are subsidiaries. Nowadays, if you go to most of the Europe, you see Black Africans in the churches as the priests. They offer each, if you want 2 churches or 5 churches, is 100 million, 50 million, or 10 million. The churches, clergies get together, collect 10, 20 million, pay to the Vatican, and buy shop in Europe. And whatever they collect is theirs to return. Now Vatican doesn't work on income. Every black priest you see in any churches, ask him how much he's paid to come to Europe, or how much his flock or his district has collected. And they come in with diamonds, they don't come with cash. They pay, they get a shop. And the shop has got what we call leasing and a rental agreement. This is how the churches are run in Europe now. And what they collect is theirs. They have to maintain the building and they have to keep it going, pay the expenses, and the rest goes back to the investors in Africa. Because there is no taxes on church incomes.
Mr. Keshe, this is Yvonne, and I think I asked the original question about the Pope in Iraq. My question now is Suez Canal, the ship, and 2 other incidents in the past few days in Egypt.
Which are the 2 incidents? You live in Egypt.
Yes, head-on train crash.
Yeah.
And the third one was a large building collapse.
Those are coincidences. These are all coincidences, but because you live in Egypt, you hear it. We see a lot of other disasters around the world. the ship is more or less, we have to see. As I said in teaching, ship is an accident, depends who makes opportunity out of it.
Are we sure that it's an accident? We're sure that it wasn't hacked?
It's like we are waiting. I used to be in the oil business a long time ago, and what it is, if you sit at the mouth of the Bosphorus in Istanbul, usually around Sunday afternoon, Sunday morning, Saturday, you suddenly see skirmishes of tankers going up the Bosphorus towards the what we call Russian ports for fueling. And then during the week, you see them one by one returning. This Strait of Bosphorus is one of the most busiest channels of what we call shipping lines, because it's one of the main ports of the Russia exporting oil. We are expecting a disaster there anytime. It could be tomorrow, it could be 10 years from now. But these heavy shipping lines is like the road. You have a huge traffic, something will happen sooner or later. We are literally waiting for one day when one of these tankers coming out of the Russian ports, coming back into Bosphorus, going into the, what we call the Black Sea and the down, into Mediterranean and down, will run out of control or hit something. I was there last year. I usually stay in a hotel which faces Bosphorus. And I always, because I used to watch this process, we used to buy tankers to fuel. And you buy 10, 20 tankers to fuel for different part of the world to ship out. And I see it's a time, because it's the time slot given for loading. And you see them suddenly when you go into, especially when you go from Istanbul airport to the city center on the route of the coast, you see hundreds and hundreds of tankers hanging in there waiting to be rented to load. And sooner or later, one of these is going to have a crash. And then you say it's an accident, or you say, oh, is it planned? And the Suez Canal is the same. We have the same with Panama. It will happen. These things are eventually will happen. It's the same as.
Seems strange to me, the size of the boat and the angle that it wound up.
You got to realize in different ways of what is the plan. Maybe, let's say 5% possible, you're correct. But who is planning it and what is the outcome?
That's my question.
Pushing the oil prices up, or stopping any kind of possible movement of militaries in one direction or the other while you're planning a bigger structure attack. Because you understand exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
We don't look at the way you look at it, we look at it as a military strategy, what it means and where it goes. Knowledge seekers are not wise to these things. We look at it, if you're planning such a massive position, or you're trying to block a massive position. Because if you can go through the Suez Canal to get to the point, or you can go all the way down Cape Town and come back up.
And add many more days onto the journey, yes.
Yes, but on the other hand is if you're planning a military base, who can reach where? So you can look at the cynical side of it as well. And as an advisor to governments, I watch a lot of things different than you do. We look at the military strategy, why and how. You look at the fuel tankers, we look at the regional strategy stability.
Well, I'm sure in the future we'll have an answer on it.
We can make an answer for it, depends how you look at it. I heard this afternoon that the Egyptian decided to unload those of the containers to make it lighter for the barges to pull it.
They'll be trying in about another hour and a half to float it again, but there might be rocks.
Oh, it could be anything, but this canal is too narrow. It is too narrow. A ship always blocks it. It's like a what I call a matchstick can close that canal. Looks big, but in essence, if you put any of
Oh,
the
that
ships
ship,
in an angle, it'll block it.
no, that ship is nearly as tall as the Statue of Liberty, I think it was.
Yes, but the length of it is long enough to cover the whole, what do you call it, the canal. Doesn't take long to block that canal.
The same situation we had in the Falkland Islands in the 80s when UK tried to keep the Falkland Islands to control all the south-going ships.
Yep, you remember that. You got
Yeah.
that one.
Very much so.
Mm.
We were involved in it.
Interesting
Argentinian-
comparison.
You remember
Thank
the
you.
Falkland Island? You're welcome. Yeah, the British did everything possible.
And it was very expensive for them. They certainly got it in the neck.
Argentina paid more for it. They had to sell the land to the Chinese to pay back for it. Large area of the Argentina on the soil production is still on a 99-year lease back to China because of that war. You were nearly bankrupt, even on the, what do you call it, World Bank loan, and within 3 years, Chinese paid the whole amount in advance, and overnight you paid your debts. We all
Yeah,
remember.
we're in a heck of a mess, yeah.
Yeah, because of what they did to you. And the Chinese bought you out, but most of your land now is on the production for Chinese sold out. Argentina didn't walk out free from that position.
And the wind is a very tricky thing, Yvonne, I don't know if they blame the wind, the ship, but we saw our president.
It's their
trip.
second incident.
Mhm. But they tried to.
They nearly destroyed totally a barge, sorry, a passenger boat, I think it was, in Germany. Same boat. And they claimed again the wind.
Yes, we saw that recently with our president here in the United States walking up the stairs of Air Force One, and he tripped 3 times in a row. I think he hit his head, and they did blame the wind. Although there wasn't.
Doesn't need which president?
Biden. He tripped 3 steps in a row. He caught himself, he started again, he tripped, he caught himself, he started again and tripped. Unless it was a fake video that I saw, but they were saying his press secretary said it was the wind, the high winds that day, and the stairs can be tricky on Air Force One.
Slippery steps.
Slippery slope.
Yeah.
And you had talked about ships at one time, Mr. Keshe, large ships like that could be elevated, let's say. Have you been approached at all to untangle it, or are they going to try their way first, and then maybe if they're not successful, they might tap your knowledge?
We haven't been approached at the moment. No. And nobody discussed this. The Keshe Foundation has called for a lot of work, and And in the coming time, we will explain more. I have a free hand now. There are others who run the foundation, so we are expanding in the horizon of Keshe Foundation. The work and what we call teachings in a different language. I think knowledge seekers should have made a plasmatic barge by now, just lift it up and put it on the, either way it was going in the, what they call Indian Ocean, or put him down in the other side. But it hasn't done yet. I think knowledge seekers are a bit lacking in knowledge. You can imagine all this barging going to pool. Knowledge seekers should have brought a system and just lift it up and put it across. Maybe
Well, I
in
think
time.
It
a
was
lot
just
of countries would be grateful if the solution was found quickly. And animals. There are many animals on boats stuck in the canal.
Perhaps we could ask Iranian Sepah to use their spaceship to lift it.
Make the call, it should be easy for you.
God bless. I don't think they'll even hear anything from me. I wouldn't even have to contact them. I think that would be a good way to show the technology.
I think it would be a peaceful way to show the technology.
We will show the technology very soon in a specific way. We will show the technology. It's not, it's going, it will be shown very soon in a specific way. As I said, never be magic with Keshe Foundation. It has to be solid basis.
To the benefit of humanity.
Have we done anything else?
Let me think on that.
And Yvonne, what was the name of the ship? The actual name, Green something? Greenfield?
Well, it's the Ever Given is the name of the line that you're thinking of.
Evergreen. I think that
Evergreen.
was the code name for the Secret Service for HRC, and those HRC initials appear there, and they showed a tugboat named Barak trying to.
And another one named Mossad.
So maybe they're
Welcome
just
to the
playing.
show.
Yeah.
The cartoon's getting better.
I know I have seen so many cartoons, but I am more worried about people in all these countries and the animals, and it's not a pretty situation. Well, let's hope they get it off this evening. Here's wishing.
Mr. Keshe, can I have a question, please?
One of the two or just one?
Yeah, as you like. In your measurement, you always, let me put it like this. You measure the hydrogen, you take 50% from to measure the mass, because you do not consider the inertia in the plasma. And you go further until you go to 10%. You take 10%. What is the limit where partially you do not take anything? You just keep it as it is.
Does not happen more or less for a fraction of moment seconds in the plasma condition.
So you always have to take or you add.
Yeah, you always, especially with plasma, you always, hydrogen, you always take away 50%. Because you don't have a balanced field, you have a single field. Where you have a deuterium, you have a balanced field. Where you have a tritium, you have a what they call unbalanced field towards what we call magnetical. And this is where hydrogen plays game, because the positioning of the electron has a lot of say about the field radiation from the proton in the center.
So in this meaning, when I consider tritium, I will consider deuterium. It will behave in one way, and extra hydrogen, it will behave in different.
What is extra hydrogen?
And this one, which is it is not with the pack.
What do you mean?
The tritium.
The tritium. Tritium has a spare neutron. And secondly, why? Why has a spare neutron? That's the biggest question. Again, in the world of science, has not been answered. Why do we carry, for such a simple system, a spare neutron? A spare neutron is primarily belonging to heavy elements over what we call capacity, or what we call a space gap between the protons. This is one of the another, what I call mystery of the science, why one of the lightest element carries a spare neutron. How does it get in?
Maybe I can answer that in a way.
Yes.
Isn't
Yep.
that how you explain it is due to the center line of the universe, the size and the shape and the cut?
In a way, no. In a way, a tritium, a spare neutron, if you have a double tritium, you can create in a very special way deuterium and a helium. And this is what we call plasma energy conversion. It cannot be done in the matter state. You create a condition of the GANs, and then with it, you convert it back to matter. Then you have what we call a spare electron, a spare hydrogen, which stays on its own. And then you have the two neutrons of the tritium. One takes the position of the stronger proton, and one takes the conversion from proton into what we call neutron of its own. So the secondary neutron of the two tritiums, one neutron stays as a neutron. The second neutron, which is the weaker of the two, splits into an electron and a proton. Then you create a helium. These are plasmatic conversions, cannot be done in the matter state. Never done. It cannot be done. We call it the fusion, and fusion doesn't exist. So you bring the matter into the energy level and then you drop it down and you have two elements out of it. One is the appearance of helium, and one is the appearance of what we call hydrogen. Hydrogen as a deuterium, but not hydrogen as what do you call it? Hydrogen as H, as H2. And it can be done in some of the nuclear fast breeder reactors. We've seen this for a long time, but we could not explain the process. But now we can, because we see the heat creates a plasma.
What is the application of CH4, Mr. Keshe, in this case? It can go this way, yes?
What is the CH4?
If we can approach it from this angle.
No, not really, because CH4 has a specific characteristic as a gas and has a specific characteristics as in the matter state of the what we call molecule.
And in this case, you cannot approach it with the gases. You need the fusion.
You can approach it with the gases. What happened with the CH4? You create a combination of what I call at the end of it, the behavior of helium we see. We always see or a combination of helium as a plasma. Helium as a plasma, none of you have managed to make it, but has a specific characteristics, a specific use. Sometimes it appears in a double line blue. You see, with a carbon, you have 6 protons and 6 neutrons in the matter state. With the hydrogen, you have 6 neutrons which are playing free. You have 4, protons which are playing free. Where you have the other side, when you bring them together, let me explain to you, maybe you understand it this way for the first time. In the world of chemistry today, you work on a very, why do I have a whiteboard? In the world of the chemistry today, you call sharing of electrons, or covalent, what do you call it, exchange, or whatever you call it. But in reality, electrons have nothing to do with 2 cells, atomic structures coming together. How come the world of science gone so backwards that only looks at the electrons, but it doesn't consider the principles? This is what I tell you, our world of physics and chemistry is absolutely upside down. Absolutely upside down. You are ignoring the power of the protons and neutrons in the center of the atom.
Sorry, Mr. Keshe, are you drawing something? We don't see.
Oh, no, I have no to the whiteboard.
We see your picture right now. Would you like a whiteboard? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't want a whiteboard. I don't have access to a whiteboard. I don't have my notepad with me to write on. In the world of the what we call, just one second. In the world of chemistry today, when you bring 2 elements together, you speak about they share electrons and how these electrons cover another, what we call it, levels in the structure. But in fact, how come we are talking about the electrons where neutrons and protons are more powerful? They are the decision makers. The position of those protons and neutrons inside the atom or a new molecular structure decides the position of the electrons. This is a typical behavior of the scientists of the time. Then, if you look at that, then you will see a totally different ball game. Is the position of the electrons, which is dictated by the balance fields of the proton and neutron in the center of the two elements or four elements, and how they position themselves. And when I look at the what we call the pictures, how scientists draw the electrons share and whatever, it makes me laugh. It's made me laugh for years. How can an ant decide on the power of a truck or an elephant? Then if you understand this, when you come into the plasma condition, it's much easier. They say that when you cut the chemical binding, how they connect with. I think whoever brought this part of the chemistry into the world of science must have been one of the most illiterate people. It's like Einstein, who never knew and brought things and everybody accepted. How can you consider an atom, amalgamation or work or coming together and then just look at the electrons? The last thing you look is at the electrons. And they teach this rubbish right across the knowledge of the man from childhood to children when they start learning these things. The protons and the neutrons in the center of atom are the dictators of the positioning of each other. It's like two solar cells you come together. The moons decide the position of the sun. The moon of the earth decide where the sun sits and how it interacts with the next solar system. Does it make sense? And then they tell us this is the way they do, because nobody understood the real, nobody ever asked the question. And this is one of the things which, what I call, you give up, because the hypocrisy is so deep in the teaching of the science in present time. So when you have a CH4, you look at what do you have inside this carbon. One single proton. What do you have inside the carbon as an energy pack? You have 6 protons and 6 neutrons. What are the possibilities that the 4 hydrogen will behave like? Just look at the structure. Why
Became the
do you,
water,
pardon?
became the water shape. You can have any shape of this
No,
hydrogen.
no, it doesn't do that. It doesn't do that. In a way, it creates a different proposition. You can go back to, as you say, water, possible, but it works in a different way. But you have to consider you are in a new magnetic field environment, not on the earth condition environment. CH4 produced or CH3 you produce is not in a matter state, it's the energy of CH, it's a plasma, it's a gas of CH3.
Did you mean to mute your mic, Mr. Keshe?
Now look at the structure again. You have 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons, and 4 protons. What do you think might happen? And you have 4 electrons hanging around. In the plasmatic field, the 4 protons, if you look at it from energy point of view, one of them has to bring, or 2 of them have to bring the energy of one of the electrons down in to convert one of or 2 of the protons back to neutron in an energy pack correlation. Then what do you get? You get a carbon and a helium. Again, a plasmatic helium condition. Because then you have 2 neutrons, 2 protons, and 2 electrons hanging outside.
It converts because it goes heavier, Mr. Keshe?
Pardon?
It converts because it goes heavier?
It doesn't convert. It's because it does not convert. It's because it's in a plasmatic environment. Behaves like a helium. As I said, the plasma technology from now on has a totally different understanding and a structure. You can have a CH4 in a gas state, and then what happens? This is the beauty of the new understanding. In a matter state, you have a CH4, but inside your cup of gases, you don't have a matter state. You have a plasmatic state. Now, in a way, what you call it, 6 protons and 6 neutrons of the carbon have to balance themselves with the 4 protons of the H4. There is a possibility, very much possibility, of what we call, you get a deuterium plus carbon-14, which most of the time, behavior-wise, that's what happens. It's one of the ways to produce carbon-14 for deep space travel. Because now, in the combination of number of CH4s, what do you get? A spare deuteriums that in a plasmatic condition, every 7th one becomes carbon-14. It's the best soup to create carbon-14 for deep space travel, or deuterium for construction. In that way, the process of the whole system changes. Deuterium itself becomes the initial point of the universe. This is where we suddenly see creation of the fields, conversion into field of the plasma, and then beginning of the stars, the seed of the cycle in the depth of the universe. Where CH, what we call seek for carbon-14, becomes the line of communication for the deuterium to receive energy from any corner of the universe. And when these things happen, we see the creation of neutron stars. the seed, most of the seed of the what we call black holes in a different conversion and creation of neutron stars come through the process of the what we call CH40. Carbon is the link throughout the universe plus body of the man. And at the same time, with creating what we call deuterium, you bring the inertial system to it. So you start beginning of the neutron stars, which means the singularity from the beginning, and it becomes a big giant machine.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
I was very fascinated, Mr. Keshe, about the tablets you talked about on Friday night for feeding. We absorb 80% of our energy from the universe and we're 20% short. And that's why we go for the food. So if these tablets were to come out, we could basically walk away from eating, you were saying? Because we'd have the energy we need?
More or less, we start introducing these. This is the technologies, deepest space technologies, yeah.
But we can feed every man on the planet and every child on the planet. It doesn't need refrigeration or anything.
These are systems used in the universe. It's not something new. And it's, in a way, we create an intermediary between the soul of the man. And in feeding the soul, we create a point of interaction. It's one of the ways to elevate the soul, that it feeds the physicality.
And that would last for a day or a week or
millions of years. There is no limit.
Where would our stomach go? I thought at one point you said you must eat.
On Earth, we eat. In the space, we don't eat. We absorb energy from the universe. As I said many times, when the man goes to space, become true man of space, you have no stomach, there is no need for it, there is no need for kidneys, there is no need for bladder, there is no need for a lot of things. Do you need lung? No. Lungs are useful as long as you are permanent residents of this planet. There are no oxygen in space for you to breathe in. Is there a need for a nose? No.
Mr. Keshe, funny enough, this week we are learning about that in a way in our private teachings.
I should become a student, huh?
We want to invite you someday. It is only this surface energies what we need in a way.
As I said, hopefully, once the present regime in Iran changes, I will return to Iran. And we set up the most advanced science universities in Iran. Then I devote my life to teach technology in space through Iran. And everything is prepared for it. We're just waiting for this corrupt regime to disappear. And we'll teach the space technology, the true space technology, in the essence of deep space travel.
We are supporting you, Mr. Keshe, all the way. We cannot wait for that.
Right. But it is that we have already started involving other governments with it, but with the incoming of the new presidency in Iran, we will change the course in teaching of the technology.
So when you're referring to deep space, you're referring to deep space in a dimensional state?
Other galaxies, other universes. The time it takes you to travel to moon, it should take you the same time to travel to the next universe. If you understand the space-time and energy field transfer. If you go back to some of the teachings in the past, and in referring to the interaction of the universes, I have explained that it's even NASA has reported, the space agencies have reported this. We see cluster of the galaxies rotating in the opposite direction to the rest of the galaxy. Why? One of the main reasons for it is this cluster become like a twin star inside the galaxy, inside this universe, in parallel with the universe outside. Shows other side of this position, somewhere in the universe, outside our universe, there's another universe, which is field interaction has created this condition. In a way, if you understand it in a deeper way, the creation of the, let's say, Jupiter or Earth is not only because of the interaction of the fields within the solar system, but the effect of the other solar systems in the galaxy dictates the creation of the cells, or what we call moons or stars on this in the solar system too, even though itself has its own power to do. You got to remember a very simple principle. You put two plates to create a carbon, CO2. The sun is one of the plates. Where is the other plate? And then we can understand what interaction of these, what kind of things gases produces in different, all the gases don't come in one place. You've seen it out of nowhere, they appear in your cups. So Earth is one of those interactions, or the moon is one of those interactions. Then it gives you a total understanding, a different understanding of the work of the universe. Then what outside our solar system has said creates the forces that forces the creation of Earth. And the way we see, in so many ways we understand, if we look within the solar system, we should see positions where the fields move in a different direction than the whole of solar system. We have not seen more or less a structure like Earth or one of the planetary system, which is anti-clockwise as they are to be clockwise. But if we look inside the solar system, now that we're becoming knowledgeable and looking at the total environment, not at a point, we will see that there are the fields environments which are going clockwise. And in that clockwise fields, there is a possibility that outside the solar system is interacting with another move or another structure solar system that it shows its position. This is the story of the apple, as I explained on the Friday. Eat me, and you think, oh, I'm gonna eat the apple. No, my friend, he's already invited you. You're a captive audience.
Well, you easily mystify me, but I've had some apples in my refrigerator and I have been thinking of eating them. But when I heard your teaching, again, it's very interesting that the apple wants to be part of you. Am I wanting to eat the apple, or is the apple calling to me to say it wants to release its energy in a bigger dimension?
What do you
Very
think?
interesting. I thought I wanted to eat the apple, and I was saying I don't really have to eat the apple, but at the same time, you were saying the apple is calling to me to say it wants to be part of a larger structure or open its energy into a larger structure. And that's what it was created to do. It's still mystifying, but I see the point, I think. Works both ways.
You will be that apple in the space.
Yeah, yeah, we keep opening up into bigger dimensions. Right now, we're in the skull.
Yeah, you will have your own smell and flavor and color to be part of another one.
It is so fantastic. It's beyond our comprehension, I know. But we're approximating it and trying to
Unless you
find our
shine.
way.
Unless you shine.
Yeah. It's beautiful. To know all this knowledge was there, but we've never considered it, never examined it, never understood it. We're quite low, but we're improving in the elevator of knowledge, let's say.
The whole science of chemistry has to be rewritten. Now that we understand the interaction of the field. A lot of it is imaginary, and we accepted it because now we have systems we can see. We consider the interaction of the molecular interaction, how electrons interact and whatever. But in fact, we ignore totally the center force, what I call the actual field forces. And by creating a magnetic field, we can move these field forces and create totally different dimensions. That's what we call transmutation of element. Now we talk about transmutation of fields and energies, where we define energy as what we call it, magnetic fields in motion. Then everything has a different meaning. Everything has a different meaning. Half of the PhDs and degrees in what we call chemistry goes in the bin. Because he was taught the wrong way. Sorry about that. I'll leave you with your teaching here.
Thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe, for sharing.
We have still questions.
When is book 4 coming?
You asking me?
I think it was mentioned in one of the workshops, but I've forgotten.
I'm supposed to work on it, but I haven't found the time. It's fully written. And I think if I get my hand on it, since it was written in 2012, it was finished in early 2012.
Perhaps I'm here to give you a reminder on it.
I remind myself all the time, but I don't get the chance. You know? But the book 4, I think if I start, 5 or 6 years from now, I think I can finish it. 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, 2031, 2032, 2033, 2034, 2035, 2036, 2037, 2038, 2039, 2040, 2041, 2042, 2043, 2044, 2045, 2046, 2047, 2048, 2049, 2050, 2051, 2052, 2053, 2054, 2055, 2056, 2057, 2058, 2059, 2060, 2061, 2062, 2063, 2064, 2065, 2066, 2067, 2068, 2069, 2070, 2071, 2072, 2073, 2074, 2075, 2076, 2077, 2078, 2079, 2080, 2081, 2082, 2083, 2084, 2085, 2086, 2087, 2088, 2089, 2090, 2091, 2092, 2093, 2094, 2095, 2096, 2097, 2098, 2099, 20 In a way, now looking at it, write it, will be in 2 or 3 volumes. But then it goes for what it is and the way it is at the moment. The, what I
Perhaps you
call,
could put out one volume and everybody wait for the next.
yeah, but it'll be half of the story.
Ah. Well, it might help some of those who are really well advanced. Even half of the story.
We'll see.
Thank you.
Can I ask another question, Mr. Keshe, please?
I told you you have 2 questions.
Okay.
You become very clever for this. I come with one and then I pull the second one.
Okay. Because Mr. Keshe, we don't see you in the private teaching. That's why we cannot hold for you. So we bring the question here in the public, no problem. It is only adding to the knowledge. In your teachings, you explain how the plasma behave and how we see the heavier elements outside the reactor, and this is in the plasma condition, and we apply it to the solar system. You said we see in the edge of the solar system the hydrogen and partly helium. What inside the sun? A lighter elements in this case.
Inside the sun is only fields. There are no elements. In a way, we say, we call the fields the strength of what we call hydrogen or helium or anything else. But in fact, it's the interaction of the fields. It's a true plasma.
The soul of the plasma, you mean?
Both, they create in a way, but the plasma itself, plasma of the sun, it's from interaction of the fields. There is no matter state or plasma state as such.
Alkaline.
Not really. It's a field transmission and field transformation.
One of your papers, and the beauty that Marie sent it to me to explain it in a way. You said the difference between
Which
a star.
paper?
Sorry?
Which paper?
One of what you written, that the difference between a
Which
star
one?
and a cell.
Which one?
I don't know, Mr. Keshe.
So
I
how
told
did you
you the
read it?
number, Jalal.
She said, I didn't see it, Yovan. I didn't have the time. It is a paragraph from a paper.
Ivan, where did you find it for him?
Not me, Marie.
Oh, Marie.
Yes, but I just gave him the number for it in your publications. It was, I think, 25 or 26.
Maria is with us.
No, I don't know what he's talking about.
I'm looking for it.
Good. Because this will explain a lot.
Waiting.
Let us wait just seconds, or I can read it from.
It's in the back of the book you're talking about.
The difference between a star and a cell.
Yeah.
Yeah, should I read it? Just 1 second.
Did you find it? Because I found it. It's called Life of a Cell.
Yes, please. Can you read it, Marie, please?
Yes. Extract from this paper the reality of the transportation and transmutation of a cell is not far from the reality of the life of an atom or a star, where the life cycle of the cell are slightly more complicated, as they contain other matters maps, like acids, which have their own magnetic characteristics of their own chemical structure. For this reason, the control and replication of the energy of the cell is very much complex, but very simple to achieve. So that was the extract.
It was paper number 21 of yours, Mr. Keshe. I misremembered.
So what is the question?
So thank you, girls. So if we go to the matter state, it should be acidic. If we would like to go in the shining state, it should be alkalines. And in this way, if I put it in respect to the what we are doing in the plasma, giving, as you said, the UC member, he will shine because UC member is giving more than he takes in a way.
Yeah.
So in this case, isn't that the scale of the hydrogen? Alkaline and acidic.
I'm gonna ask you a question. Maybe you understand it a different way. In the amino acid, you have a carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. What would it happen if I replace the hydrogen with tritium? Gerard?
Yes. I thought you are continuing.
No. What happened if I replace hydrogen in a amino acid bond with a tritium?
Yes, you just explained it to us.
It's still in understanding it has one electron according to the present chemistry, but the nucleus has totally different characteristics.
Yes, and in this case, you just explained it to us when we speak about the CH4, and that this deuterium package, it will add to the carbon, I think, because the nitrogen, we see it here, nitrogen as a matter state, but actually it is in a way carbon 14 in the plasmatic way before it converts to the matter state. But here on Earth, I think you will change the position of the oxygen, because now you have.
You see, now is where the chemistry, present chemistry, hits the fan and doesn't work. Where we consider amino acid in the matter state of carbon, but in the energy state or plasma state is totally different. if you consider that inside the body of the man, you don't have a amino acid as a matter state fat you see, but you have it as a ball of energy. And depends on how much this energy blows up. It's like you have a different footballs, and depends how much you put air in it, how much energy you put in it, dictates the softness of the ball. Then if you understand this concept, then put the amino acid as an energy pack and a ball with different strength and whatever, the salinity becomes the environmental pressure and then dictates how hard this balloon will be. Then this balloon becomes the tissue of the, what do you call it, the muscle of a heart, or it becomes a tissue of muscle of the arm, or it becomes a tissue of muscle of a toe. Then we understand the concept of the present biology non-existence does not fit the reality. Because outside we see it as a layer on top of the CO2 gas, but inside the body of the man is a ball. And in respect to the salinity and composition of the material near to it, now it's soft or hard. And then it becomes different tissues in respect to the environment of the, what I call, created by salinity around it. It shows itself. In a way, if you look at it, if you understand the knowledge of the present time, the salinity is like that virus. That interaction with the field of the plasma of the amino acid, in respect to it, it dictates how soft or hard the ball is going to be. And again, that salinity itself is a field in the environment, does not have any structure. Is a plasmatic flow inertia. And then the whole structure, understanding of biology changes totally. When we talk amino acid, you look at the fat on the top, that's in a matter state. When that amino acid is inside the cell of your body, it's a pole, it's an energy field.
Full understanding.
Now you understand? Somebody is sharing pictures.
Yeah, they're sharing the amino acid structure.
Okay.
Yeah. This amino acid, take it and bring it inside the water itself. And you won't see it as a flat, you see it as a balloon. Where on the surface is flat thin. On the surface, you're working with the inertia and the atmospheric condition. When you bring it inside the cup, comes a ball. And depending on the salinity you have used, dictate how it will show itself. This is one of the reasons I always tell you collect your amino acid and then add it back later on. Because when you collect it in the matter state. When you mix it into the mixture, it becomes a balloon. It becomes part of the field interaction. And that's why I said, how can you have everything without the line of communication and then the line of the existence, which is the amino acid. And this is what I think 99% of knowledge seekers never understood this. Then it has totally meaning. The structure of the whole chemistry and biology changes.
they are approaching the matter state. We are approaching it from the plasma state, Mr. Keshe. So
no, we approach it the correct way, the way it is.
the field state.
I'm gonna let you think in a very different way for the first time.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Appreciate.
Let's look at if you can produce a nano box, a CO2 box, which has a CO box in it, and it has a condition to create Zn in it, the way you do in a cup of life. But make it spherical, not like the way you see it today, not in a box. Make it in a ball shape if you can do. And then be able to hold on to it, that in the interaction with the fields of the salt which is surrounding it, the gases produced will create the amino acid layer. You will realize one thing immediately is that the amino acid will immediately take shape in 3 layers, become the skin, bring manifestation of physicality of the existence of the cell within. So creating life with a skin is very easy. And then once that the skin created, is separate in structure inside the ball than outside. The upper skin, outer layer, is to interact with the atmosphere. The middle layer is balancing between the condition inside and outside, and the inner layer is holding the fields inside. This is why, in so many ways, in a biology, in what we call, in many illnesses, we see psychosomatic with the skin rashes, because the outside intrusions with what is inside don't match and manifest the emotion as a salt and the bruises or rashes on the skin of the man. If we understand the world of science of biology the way it is in reality than what is made by man, it becomes very easy to understand how easily we can create any skin. And then what's within the skin is in a vacuum condition. What is outside is in interaction with the vacuum of the outside environment. And the middle layer is the intermediary to balance between the two. If you look at it, it's a twin star, one outside, one inside, and the middle is the balancer. This is what life is. This is how life is created in the universe. Even if you look at the structure of the kidney is the same, the structure of the heart is the same, the structure of the veins is the same. One handles what's outside, one handles what's inside, and the intermediary has to be there to bring a balance between the two, that they can exist and interact and keep that vein in the shape it is. Then the world of the science, present science of biology, what we've been taught, it's the fan, it's gone. It does not make sense anymore. Those of you who are versed in the world of biology and chemistry, you understand you wasted your life leading and been taught so much. Because now in a space we have to look at it this way. What energy we can put from the outside that inside allows to exist in its own dominion, in its own pressure, magnetic field pressure. Then you can live anywhere in the universe. All you need to do is to adjust the internal. I have to go into a very important meeting. I have to leave. Sorry about that. I'm 17 minutes late for a meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
very much.
Mr. Keshe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope I didn't ruin your what I call evening. But the world of science from now on, we teach about the plasma, and the creation of the fields has totally different meaning. And if you go back in some of the teachings we did in the health teachings, or first 48 teachings with in the medical side, it explains a lot of things which is now getting discussed. 10 years ago, I tried to explain this 8 years ago, but the knowledge wasn't there. But now more people understand. We can teach deep. I wanted to teach this years ago, but nobody could understand it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was going to play this 1 minute clip here.
Which is?
This was something Barbara put in. Iran and China signed a 25-year cooperation agreement. It's expected to increase the bilateral trade and military cooperation. Now, what this gentleman down here, let's see if we can, where is his?
Is that Mr. Zarif?
Yes, yes, I think it's, here it is. If you have 1 minute and 37 seconds, I just wanted you to comment on it to see if you were aware of this, and you may want to make a comment.
We know about this treaty over 2 years.
Okay.
The only reason for it has been signed now is because President Xi stands totally 180-degree opposite to Rouhani. And he signed this now. He wouldn't sign it 3 years ago. I discussed this in the national security discussions with Chinese government. It's a 400 billion project, if I'm correct. And it's one of the biggest cooperation China has ever put out. It's the consolidation between the Silk Road between Iran and China. And as of this week, Keshe Foundation is part of this structure. We will explain to you later on. President Xi refused to sign this till Rouhani is out of the way. You have to understand, China sees Rouhani as one of the biggest betrayal in the bilateral relationship between Iran and China. And they would not give him the pleasure. But now they start facilitating that when the next president comes into operation, huge structures with Iran will start. Primarily, a lot of this will go into the space development with Iran, and Keshe Foundation will be part of it in a very direct way. And this was done to what we call counterbalance the pressures of the Americans on the Iranian, what we call economy. But this was supposed to be signed 2 years ago. President Xi wouldn't allow it to happen. But has a very negative structure on Iran, because it can bring Iran on a burden of a massive debt that will not be payable by 2-3 generations. And this is one of my biggest concerns regarding this contract. We have to watch every step of it, that we do not give our oils for free in exchange for freedom from the sanctions, now that we have changed position of negotiation for the sanctions. It's something which I know about this contract for nearly over 2 years.
So in this way, China is approaching Iran for making this contract.
The problem is now we will be, it's a very tricky position, very tricky position. China has invested financially in many countries, but has led to the crippling of the industry. If you look at it, it says about the oil industry. It's part of it is to expand Iran oil industry. I know this contract for nearly 2 years. And we know this would not happen till Rouhani goes away. It's very beneficial to Iran because now if we change it the way we want it, we will bilaterally invest inside China. It's not a one way, but as part of this structure, it becomes a bigger position for China influentially in Middle East. As Iran did not cooperate with the Americans and the British, 400 billion with 80 million population is a huge burden on nationals. Unless we bring back a new dimension in trade where Iran technology is exchanged for payment. And this negotiation I have already started 2-3 weeks ago. We will hear, we don't explain a lot of things which is happening, but soon you will hear. We have already started part of this process, 2 large investment in China. You'll be announcing coming time by the Keshe Foundation worldwide. But nothing was possible till Rouhani was in office. Now he's going, everything is accommodated. When he comes, the new government will take over and run with it. But we have to be very careful. We don't get burdened under it. So we are writing a lot of Iranian space and nuclear technology against this payment, intellectual rights against the payment for this. That doesn't put pressure on the nation. But we have to see. It's a very big danger for Iran if this is not controlled. Our payment should not come through oil to China. Our payment to China has to come through exchange for technology. And we already transferred part of this initial work at a $50 million euro investment through China as an intellectual right transfer. We are part of the bigger structure, in due time we'll explain. Iran cannot pay 400 billion exchange, but our technology worth more than 400 billion. We exchange for technology, and I called for a meeting of this in past 48 hours.
Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
The thing that concerned me about this was oil again. Why isn't it phasing out oil?
Chinese refineries are keyed up to Iranian oil. Chinese.
Which
So
is very
they
light oil.
Iran has a combination of oils. We have a different type of oil from north of Iran in the Caspian Sea to the south of Iran in the Persian Gulf. The first oil ever dug out in a way for refining came from Caspian Sea. If you go back into the history of the oil industry. And the Chinese have a big problem that the Silk Road train runs from China to Iran, through to Europe, but it goes back empty most of the time. This railway cost billions of dollars to build. Now we do it ourselves, Keshe Foundation, all these enhancement units you see, we ship it on the Silk Road. It takes us 14 days from factory to our factory, door to door. If I ship it by sea, I have to wait up to 10 weeks. Our people in China put the goods on the train in the factory or give it to the railway company. 14 days later, it's delivered to our warehouse in Austria. But all these trains, most of them go back empty. with the Iran North oil line, the hunger for oil of China can be met this way, partially. And it's part payments in, because we cannot export the oil from north of Iran. We have to pipe it all the way down to the Caspian Sea and pipe it out. And in so many ways, I know this because I've been involved in this business for nearly 40 years in oil export from sub-Russian, countries and Silk Road. And now this is a very good opportunity for Iran to export the North fields, which we could not export up to now directly into Chinese territory, where the trains go back empty. But that has to be the limitation of it, without literally bogging us down with the oil in the south. It's much more into it. I've been involved in this. I've been around this for nearly 40 years. I know the reason I started the export of oil from Kazakhstan into China because of the border line. And there's a lot of political pressures on this side of it. It makes Iran independent of oil exports from the Caspian, from the Persian Gulf. It allows Iran to open a second channel of line of export of oil into outside Iran, creating revenues which does not go under sanctions. It's a big, I know this, we've been part of it, and Keshe Foundation has become part of it now. Anyway, I have to go into this meeting. We'll, thank you very much for today.
Thank you for clarifying,
Thank
Mr.
you very
Keshe.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.